Welcome to another episode of CHILIpulse, the space we created to get actionable insights on all things CHILI graphics. Today we will connect a CHILI GraFx Smart Template to your DAM, or PIM, or any resource provider. This means that if you have external media, you can continue to use them in your creation process. Joining me in the studio today is Pieterjan. Pieterjan is product owner for the platform CHILI GraFx, the connector framework, and the plugins to import your designs. Pieterjan will walk us through an example, and by the end of the episode, we will also explain how you can build a connector yourself, so stay tuned. Hi Pieterjan.
Hi Bram.
What I suggest is that we start with an actual example, one where imagine you are a real estate agent and you want to make a variation of an ad to sell a house, and you want to make a local adaptation for your social advertising.
Yeah, perfect.
Where do I start?
I would suggest I walk you through it, Bram. That's the most easiest way to explain it. So I would suggest we just go to CHILI GraFx. Let's open the collection real estate, of course. And let's take a look on the, let's say, the template you created on the right there to create a Instagram ad or any social media ad that you want to create.
So what I see here is also what a real estate agent, like an end user, would see.
Yeah, and this is not a designer, Bram. So this is someone who has not at all any knowledge of a graphic design tool, whatever. Yeah.
All right.
So you see in this design that you can change little things. This is a very easy template that we made. You can change the different kind of output that you want to create. So you can select a different type.
Because I would like to make an advertisement for my Instagram, so it's Meta.
Yeah, good point. Instagram is of course dynamic and a video you can play. So a search of movie. So this is indeed what you're showing now. That the image or the project you want to create is a video.
Yeah, and let me take a selection because that's where the magic happens.
Yeah.
The listing of houses that I see here, they originate from the DAM system.
Yeah, correct. So you as a real estate agent has access to certain houses, certain images within the DAM system that you can use for your social media advertising. So here you see a list of images that are available for you within the DAM, and thanks to the connector, they're also available within this design. So you can select one, and you will see that by selecting a asset, I selected an image, you will see the design will change. So a couple of things changed here, Bram. So you see that, or you saw that the information about the vendor has changed. So the agent has changed. This is data that can come from out of the DAM system.
Yeah.
But, and this is a cool thing that we have at connectors, it can also be connected to, let's say, a CRM system or Salesforce or whatever system that you use that stores data that is connected with the asset. And by updating the asset, you can also update the data that comes from the CRM that is attached to this house.
So the only thing I need to do is select a house, and all the related data will come across with that.
From all the platforms, external resources that you use, it will come together in this design. And the only thing that you have to do is just click, and there you have it.
Okay, well, this is not a new listing, but I want to push it on my social media with a price improvement.
Yeah.
This design has been pre-approved by the headquarters. So basically, and now I'm done. Let me check my animation. So I have my animation ready, and I can download an MP4 to post to my Instagram.
Yes, everything on brand, so you have nothing to worry about. That the marketing department comes after you.
Yeah. Next step is I would also like to have a variation for this for the window banners, because like a real estate location, a real estate sales point of sales, they mostly have these banners on the windows.
Yeah.
So I guess it's a matter of selecting the right variant. I want to have an animated, of course, or we can have a print one because this one was animated. So let's choose a static one.
And then you can indeed download it and export it as a PDF.
And have it printed by my local partner.
Yeah.
But I want to have this one also for another house, so I can go back, choose also this house, and everything gets updated.
Yeah, indeed. That's how easy it is to...
All right.
Yeah.
And every time that headquarters or the local real estate agents update the listings of the houses, my availability of houses will be updated.
Yeah, so forget the hustle with Excel files or whatever that you need to update. This is just the automated
All right.
progress that is that's done here.
That's the end result. Let's take one step back.
Yeah.
How did we create that template?
Well, let's jump to the template designer workspace within GraFx, because there is how you would configure the template. So here you see the exact same design. On the left, you see the variants that we just saw. So this is where they are created. And important to see, of course, the most important thing on this is the image of the house. Where does it come from? Well, when you go to the right, indeed, you will see that we have variables created. One of them is, in fact, the image variable for the picture of the house. If you will click on it, you'll see that we can easily also select another house here. You will see that it will change accordingly. So this is just the same behavior as we just saw. But of course, the configuration behind this is that this is connected to your DAM. So you can select any connector that is configured and activated within your environment. And you can manage the metadata behind it. So as you would click on manage, you will see metadata that comes from the external system. You can map them to the variables within your design. And that's how the magic that happened earlier with the updating of the design is happening.
And maybe to explain the metadata, these are fields or placeholders with content
Indeed.
that might have a different name on my DAM system than my locally defined fields here. And you just map what field goes into what variable, as we call them in Studio.
You can easily decide what you want to pull in. Of course, we don't want to pull in all the metadata because that could be a big pile of data. So this is just the metadata that you want to have within your design that you can select and configure.
And I see there's also what we call a connector, a search query string.
That's also one of the, I would say, the power elements of the connector, because you can easily define a query, a search string within your DAM, for example, that will give you access to a selection of assets from the DAM. So imagine me as a real estate agent, I only want to have access to a certain region, or only the assets that are for me personally made available. I can configure this with this search string. So let's try it out. Yeah, you have indeed a search string available there.
I'm here in the DAM and we have pre-configured it. So this would be another
for agent
query
John. Yeah.
For agent John.
Yes.
So if you put it in here, that means that my template now only has access to the houses by real estate agent John.
Indeed. So only the 4 houses that you see here are the ones that are available for agent John within the DAM system.
Yeah. So it is up to you how you design your templates to make it very narrow or make it very specific, or keep it open for if your company is not that big to,
Absolutely. And also good to know is that we will always respect the governance of the DAM. So it's not something we can bypass. We will only see as a user what you're entitled to from the DAM. So we cannot give you access to everything if the DAM doesn't give you access to everything. It's one of the main rules for the connectors, the governance that we respect.
But let's take one step back again.
Yeah.
Because we saw the configuration of the connector. By default, this connector is not configured for my environment.
Yeah.
Where does that happen?
That happens in the connector hub. So if we take, again, a step back to the platform where we have an environment here available. If you click on the settings of the environment, you'll see a couple of tabs, integrations, for example, but the topic of today, connectors. So here you see all the connectors that are activated and configured for this environment. Because important to know is that you will always activate a connector within one environment.
Okay.
It's not for all your subscription, it's for each specific environment that you have to activate it.
So you can vary per environment what the configuration is and the parameters.
Absolutely. So use cases can also differ per environment. And if we would click on Add Connector, you will see that we get access to the connector hub, as we call it. And this is just an overview of all the connectors that are made available by us or by third parties. You can click on a connector and then you can start the very easy configuration. It only takes a couple of minutes. And then the connector is activated within Studio, as we just saw. It's made available and you can start creating your template with the assets from your DAM.
Super. And I see you just need to enter information about authentication and where my DAM is, and
Absolutely.
maybe information you need to ask your system administrator of the DAM.
Yeah.
Once you have that, just fill it in, save, and you're all set.
Yeah, indeed.
Okay, great. So we have a template, we've played with it, we added a connector. But what if I want to build my own connector? Because I have an asset management system that is not in this list.
Yeah. Well, the connector framework is an open source framework we have. So this means that we provided a lot of in-depth documentation about how to build a connector. So if you just would go through the documentation pages, we are pretty sure, and we already saw it with partners, that you can start building your connector yourself. Then it's just a matter of getting in touch with us. So you can do this via the website. You can just fill in a short form, get in touch with us so we can give you a sandbox environment with just all the things that you need to start building a connector. And then it's just working through the documentation. In fact, Bram, it's pretty easy. And of course, we're just one phone call away. If you need help, we can support you. But we already saw that partners can very independently build their own connectors. So just for the connector that you need, you can build one.
It's all explained in detail, stepwise. It's not that much. Like you say, it's just a few hundred lines of code.
Yeah, and we provide both the technical information, but also the functional. And what we mean by functional documentation is the use cases that we want you to enable. So it's, in fact, 100% clear what you want to
So you build a connector, and at the end, there's also explanation how to publish your connector, because you can make your connector available for our other customers.
That's correct, yeah.
But what if I have my own custom-made asset management system and I don't want it to be available?
Yeah, and it's in fact the use case that we see today with the client is that they're building a connector called a custom connector, which is only deployed on their environment. It's a specific use case they only want to enable on their environment, and that's perfectly possible. So what you will see in the connector hub list that we just saw, your connector will not be visible in that list. It's just made available for your environment only. It's a choice you made. If you want to decide it's a connector that everyone can use, you build a third-party connector, as we say it, then it just becomes available in the list. And anyone that has a license of the DAM, for example, and GraFx can just use the connector, activate it, and get started.
Can you walk us through the type of connectors that we offer? Or that are available in the platform, in the framework?
Today we talk about two main connectors, two main type of connectors, being the first one, the media connector, as we just saw an example of connecting your DAM. But do know that we can also pull in images from Google Maps, for example, or DALL-E or Midjourney. Any AI generative tool that creates an image, we can pull in if it has an API, of course. So we can pull in images from external systems, but the second type of connectors that we have is the data connector. And that, as the name it says, pulls in data from external resources. Think about CRM, think about CDP, think about your Salesforce, whatever data you can bring within the connector. And as we saw in the beginning, and we started with that, you can connect connectors with each other. And that brings a very nice ecosystem of connectors that provides you all the things that you need.
Because that is what happened here, right on screen. When you pull in an asset, that asset is, of course, linked to the data of the sales agent, the real estate agent. So it will query the data connector to also pull in the data of the sales agent.
Absolutely.
And then again, pull in the data of the picture of the sales agent.
So it's an ecosystem of connectors that comes together. But as an end user, you have no clue, of course, that this is the magic behind the screen. So that's the beauty of it.
And maybe as a cherry on the cake, this is now on demand. I need to have one variation, but it also works for variable data.
Absolutely,
Because my template is connected, and if I push variable data, because the headquarters want to generate a lot of assets at once, that is also possible.
Yeah, absolutely. If you indeed have a CDP or a PIM with a lot of product information, and you want to produce assets in bulk, as we say, 10,000s of assets at once connected with your PIM system, it's perfectly possible.
Great. Maybe to summarize, so we saw how an end user can use it. We saw how we can create a template. We saw how to configure one for my environment on how to use that connector. And there's documentation on how to build one yourself. I think I would say now it's up to the audience to start building them themselves.
let's get started.
Yeah. So, well, thank you, Pieterjan, for the great explanation. And thank you, audience, for listening, viewing, wherever you watch. If you are triggered and teased to make your own connector, please reach out. On the website, we have an invitation to start building yourself. We will set up a discovery environment for you so you can start building and connecting. Thank you so much. Thank you, Pieterjan, and see you in the next episode.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.